As we watch current developments involving Iran, many students of Bible prophecy are asking whether we are approaching a convergence of events described in Scripture. To explore that responsibly, we need to examine the relevant passages carefully, compare them, and avoid forcing conclusions while still recognizing patterns. Let's begin with Jeremiah chapter 49, specifically the prophecy concerning Elam. Elam is widely understood to correspond geographically to modern southwestern Iran. The text tells us that the Lord will break the bow of Elam, scatter its people, and bring calamity upon it. Yet it also includes a restoration clause. In the latter days, I will bring again the captivity of Elam. That phrase, in the latter days, is critical. It suggests that whatever historical fulfillment occurred, there may also be an eschatological layer. In other words, Elam could have both a near fulfillment and a future one. This is consistent with how many prophecies operate in Scripture. Now compare that with Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39. Here we encounter the well-known Gog and Magog invasion. The text explicitly lists Persia, modern Iran, as part of a coalition that comes against Israel in the latter days. This coalition includes multiple regions, forming a broad alliance that is ultimately destroyed by divine intervention. So we are faced with a structural question. If Persia participates in the Gog-Magog invasion, but Elam experiences a distinct judgment in Jeremiah 49, how do these two passages fit together? One possibility is sequencing. Jeremiah 49 could describe a destabilizing or catastrophic event affecting Iran prior to its involvement in Ezekiel 38. Such an event could reshape the nation politically or militarily, yet still leave it capable of participating in a broader coalition later. Another possibility is that Jeremiah 49 is already fulfilled historically, and Ezekiel 38 is entirely future. However, the latter days language in Jeremiah keeps many students from dismissing a future component too quickly. A third view is that both passages overlap in the same general time frame, describing different aspects of God's dealings with the same region. Scripture often presents events from multiple vantage points, rather than strict chronological order. Now, let's bring in another major prophecy, Isaiah chapter 17, concerning Damascus. The text declares that Damascus will cease from being a city and become a ruinous heap. Considering that Damascus is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in history, this prophecy stands out as something not yet fully realized. The timing again is not specified. Does Damascus fall before the Gog-Magog invasion, possibly setting the stage? Does it occur afterward as part of a broader regional judgment? Or is it part of a cascading series of events? The Bible does not explicitly say. But strategically, the removal of Damascus would significantly alter the regional balance. It is not difficult to imagine how such an event could create conditions consistent with the environment described in Ezekiel 38, where Israel is dwelling in relative security prior to the invasion. Now we come to a key observation: the absence of the church in Ezekiel 38 and 39. The passage focuses entirely on Israel, the nations, and God's direct intervention. For those who hold a pre-tribulation view of the rapture, this absence is not incidental. The church is a distinct entity from Israel, described in the New Testament as a mystery. Therefore, when we see God resuming a very direct national focus on Israel in a geopolitical context, it strongly suggests that the church age has concluded. This aligns with passages such as 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 1 Corinthians chapter 15, which describe the catching away of believers. It also fits with the broader framework in which the 70th week of Daniel concerns Israel specifically, not the church. While we must be careful not to build doctrine solely on absence, the cumulative case becomes compelling when we consider the full counsel of Scripture. The pre-tribulation rapture provides a coherent framework in which the church is removed prior to the major judgments and conflicts that unfold in the end times. Now, let's briefly address another layer often discussed: Jubilee cycles and alternative calendar models, such as the Enoch calendar. These ideas can be intriguing, and they may highlight patterns worth studying. However, they remain speculative. Scripture does not explicitly tie in-time events to a specific modern calendar reconstruction. So while these models can inform discussion, they should never override clear biblical teaching. So where does all of this leave us? We can say with confidence that Iran, identified as Persia, plays a role in future prophecy according to Ezekiel 38. We can say that Jeremiah 49 may include a latter-day component involved in Elam. We can say that Isaiah 17 describes a future destruction of Damascus that has not yet been fully realized. And when we place these alongside a pre-tribulation understanding of the rapture, a picture begins to emerge. Not a precise timeline, but a framework. A stage being set. Nations aligning. Conditions developing. In intelligence terms, We might call this convergence without full confirmation. The pieces are visible, but the exact sequence remains deliberately undefined. And that brings us to the most important takeaway. Prophecy is given so that we will recognize God's sovereignty as events unfold, and so that we will live in a state of readiness. If the pre-tribulation view is correct, then the next event on the prophetic horizon is not Gog and Magog, and not the destruction of Damascus, but the catching away of the church. That is an imminent event, one that requires no prior fulfillment of prophecy. That should shape how we live. Not in fear, but in expectation. Not in speculation, but in preparedness. So as we watch the headlines and study these passages, the question is not just are we close, the question is, are we ready? I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. How do you see Jeremiah 49 fitting with Ezekiel 38 and Isaiah 17? Do you see these as sequential events, overlapping, or separate entirely? Go ahead and leave a comment below and share your perspective. This is a conversation worth having.